Peace, everybody. Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Roger.
And today, we got a special little uncut episode for you. But in this episode, we are going to recap the Bernard Hopkins-Sergey Kovalev HBO card that happened this past Saturday. And on that card, we had Saddam Ali taking a big step up against Luis Carlos Abregu. And then we had Kovalev and Hopkins. Go ahead and get it started, Rob.
All right, so Saddam Ali was part of the 2008 Olympic squad, who to me has seemed like a prospect for way too long because he just seemed kind of pretty experienced, but he is undefeated if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And he took a giant step up against Carlos Abregu. I always get the first two names mixed up.
I think it's Luis Carlos.
Luis Carlos Abregu. Same three names. Either way, Abregu's only lost one fight, and that was to Timothy Bradley. So
Right.
Saddam Ali was really up against a tough guy. One of the big upsets from Abregu was his knockout of Thomas Delorme.
Yeah, Delorme was riding high at the time when he did it.
And he hit the ground hard. So this was a big step up, and Saddam Ali showed out. I mean, he looked poised, I would say, after the first two rounds. And you really see the athleticism and him just really start landing cleanly from the third round and on, which resulted in two knockdowns, with the last one being in the 9th round, and he got him out of there.
Yeah, if you guys are following us on Facebook, you know I wrote on the page that I was picking Abregu to stop him late because of how slow he had been moved. He had some trouble with some guys that he shouldn't have had trouble with. But honestly, this is what you want to see from young up-and-coming boxers. Guys who are learning from what happens in the ring and getting better every time you see them. Even the crowd, they started out booing him. By the end of the fight, they were on their feet cheering. He learned what was going on. He adjusted to Abregu's style, started to pot shot him really well, used excellent movement, and like Rob said, got him out of there. What more can you ask for?
Which was a good thing because he didn't really rehydrate up that much. He went from weighing at about 146 and rehydrated up to 150, while Abregu weighed in about a 146 and a half, and rehydrated to 160. So there was a 10-pound disadvantage in the ring.
Yeah.
But it really didn't matter. I can see Saddam Ali staying and doing some good work at 147. It's still a little early to say because while Abregu only had one loss, he wasn't that B+ A-level fighter that you may have a Amir Khan or a Devin Alexander, Keith Thurman, and he didn't rehydrate up that much, which was a bit surprising, which probably says he might be able to make 140, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see what happens when he gets in there with I want to say the same size as Abregu, but more skilled and more athletic.
Yeah, Abregu is a good fighter. He beat a few good fighters, but the best fighter he fought, which was Bradley, he lost to him. But that's really nothing to be ashamed of because there are a lot of people that lost to Bradley. And so shout out to Saddam Ali for winning that fight, using good footwork, cutting great angles, nice pot shots, stepping up big time when he needed to, and showing up on the world stage. We look forward to seeing what happens with him next. Like Rob said, in the 147 division, it's super stacked. I doubt he gets like a big name yet, but he'll probably stay in that journey range, maybe like a Soto Carras or somebody like that, to continue his progression to the main stage. With that being said, let's move on to the main event. In the main event, we had a 175-pound title unification between Bernard Hopkins and Sergey Kovalev. Sergey Kovalev had a belt and Bernard has 2.
Right.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Bernard is the lineal champion at 175.
No, it's Stevenson.
It's Stevenson? Yeah, I'm sorry, it's Stevenson. But Bernard had 2 belts. Yeah, he had 2. Kovalev had 1, and Adonis Stevenson has the other, if I'm not mistaken.
WBC.
Yep.
Yeah. So, we didn't get a chance to make a official preview video for this one, but maybe at the beginning of the year, someone had asked us what we thought on the 4 of the light heavyweight guys fighting, which was Shumenov, Hopkins, Stevenson, and Kovalev. Now, in that, we ended up with Kovalev versus Hopkins, which we gave our thoughts on that, thinking that Hopkins would end up schooling Kovalev based on what we saw from him so far. Now, even in some of the fights, his last fight, like against Caparello, we were still going with Bernard Hopkins to school Kovalev if he didn't get knocked out. Because we know Kovalev has some devastating power. He had underrated boxing skill, but we didn't think he had enough to outbox Bernard Hopkins. Mm-hmm. What we learned on Saturday night was he had that and then some. This was a masterful boxing performance from Sergey Kovalev. This was one for the highlight reel. Yes, Bernard is 49 years old, but that didn't stop him from doing what he needed to do to win, looking good doing it, because there were other fighters who were younger, faster, fresher, who looked like crap against Hopkins. So he has to get credit for what he did on Saturday night. Go ahead, Rob.
So one of the big things in this fight that many were thinking were in Hopkins' advantage was the fact that, well, he had a better ring IQ. Yeah. He might be able to take advantage of Kovalev whenever Kovalev resets if he doesn't see something that he likes.
And we said that multiple times as well.
Which worked to his advantage because...
Yeah, it did.
Anytime, and this is one thing we probably should have pointed out in the last videos, is that when Kovalev resets, he doesn't just, okay, I'm going to stop punching. He steps out of range very quickly when he doesn't see something he likes to reset. Well, that created enough distance between him and Hopkins that Hopkins couldn't take advantage of it. But not only that, but Kovalev was fresher, stronger, and he was a little bit quicker on his feet.
Yeah, you can tell him and John David Jackson have been working very, very hard on those qualities because, like we said earlier in the video, he had underrated boxing skill, but that boxing skill is getting better every time out. Like Rob said, that footwork was just enough to get out of range of Hopkins, and even in the first round when he scored the knockdown, he feinted Hopkins. When Hopkins lunged in for his counter, he hit him with a check overhand right. How often do you see that?
And not only that, when he saw that Hopkins punch, if you notice, Hopkins kind of flicked and put his head down, which is kind of something that you shouldn't do because Kovalev threw that overhand right, hit him right behind the ear.
Yeah. And most guys, that probably would have been the end of the fight. So you got to give Bernard Hopkins props for being a 49-year-old man that hung with him because younger guys could not stay, fresher guys could not stay in there with Kovalev. He was destroying them. And Kovalev unloaded some nice shots on Hopkins. And he did get buzzed a few times. He did get dropped once, but he didn't get taken out of there. Now, is that a moral victory? I don't know. He still got whooped pretty bad. And that's saying a lot for Bernard Hopkins because even when he does lose, a lot of times you can make the case for him winning. Like the Calzaghe fight, the Taylor fights. The last one he really lost pretty cleanly was the second Chad Dawson fight. And Dawson really didn't look that great. He just beat him on activity. Mm-hmm. This was a comprehensive, complete beatdown that Kovalev put on Hopkins. He outboxed him. He out-jabbed him. He outpaced him. He had better footwork. Any boxing category that you have, Kovalev was better than Hopkins. And I can't say anybody saw that coming.
Yeah. From here, I mean, Kovalev, in my eyes, is number one in the 175-pound division. I can't really see too many people taking him out or even really challenging him, except for maybe Andre Ward and maybe Stevenson. But Stevenson has flaws that it seems like Kovalev can take advantage of.
Yeah, if I'm Stevenson, I want no parts of that fight. You know, John Pascal might be a good fight for him.
Yeah,
For Kovalev.
yeah, his
But
style,
I think they're trying to put him and Stevenson together for a big time Canada fight.
which would be big time.
Yeah. Now, if I'm Stevenson, I take that fight over Kovalev because one, he's getting up there too. He's trying to make some money. That's going to make more money than, you know. But we're not his agent. So that's really it. You got anything you want to add?
If you haven't checked it out, look up Amir Mansour's fight. It came on NBC Sports. It should be playing all week, maybe again this weekend. I can't even remember the guy he fought, but apparently it was Amir Mansour was getting back to form. He knocked this guy out brutally.
Yeah. So check that out if you haven't. Also, we've got Klitschko and Pulev this weekend.
That's right.
We'll do a video on that shortly. You'll probably see it around the same time that this one comes out. So check that out. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. You got anything you want to say? Comment section is below. You can hit us up on our Facebook page, Capital of Combat. Google Plus, same name. You can also hit us up on our email, capitalofcombat@gmail.com. If you got any questions, hit us up. We can put it in the combat mailbag. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.